So there's a drift day on next week, I think, and I haven't driven my car in friggin' ages, so I'm going to go out to it. I'm at home now instead of at the shed because my track car lives at home on the trailer. Where's my finger? There. And yeah, I got to get it off the trailer and bring it to the shed. So first thing, I get out of the way, get on the street, put the trailer driveway with the trailer in the car, and then put the track car back on the trailer. So we'll do that. So I'm here now. Paul and Jen are here that painted the S2000 in the other video. They're here to paint Paul's S14 drift car, getting ready for the same day. But last night I was working on this frame that goes under this car so I can get the hoist back. I finished reinforcing it a bit, so I'll gotta get this car out of the way, get this out of the way, put the frame under that car, and then get the hoist back over here. And while I do that, I'll also empty out the booth so they can start painting and I can start fixing. So I'm gonna move this car. This has been on a couple of videos. It's my 91 Honda Vigor. It's on air suspension, so I've got to start it and let it sit there for a bit to run the compressors because it leaks air over time. But this isn't due for rego for a while, so I probably won't be driving it. But yeah, we'll get it started, hopefully. We're good now. There's the touchpad. Ready? Oh yeah. To the back. Sick. Let's get this out of the way. Alright. So Paul has some minor dents to remove before getting ready for paint. Yeah.
Brand new.
Good as new. So while Paul's out there doing that, I'm going to get this frame under this car. I added these two like cross beams to it last night. So the idea is once the frame's under the car, I can put another car underneath it. So these cross beams, they bolt onto these like eyelets here, and then can't reach, they swing up out of the way. So when it's stationary, it doesn't need crossbars on it. I'll just swing them up, and then when I want to actually move, like roll the car around on the frame, I'll swing those down and bolt them in. So this will be the first test of them. I'll get the car lifted up and stick the frame underneath it, and then we'll see how floppy it feels. So it's a bit of a tight fit, like under the legs of the hoist, but I think it should be right. I'll let it down, see if the whole thing collapses or not. Cool. Well, we'll pull the hoist down and see if the car stays up there. Like the arms are out from underneath. This one doesn't quite come out because it hits this little lip, but once we move the pillar, it'll start to come out. So I think I'll probably take the arms off the hoist now and move this first pillar out of the way, and then the car's officially stuck up there. From that side, tips. Oh, we're going to miss the fluoro. Yeah, right there, so I'm going to see if it's going to hit the light. Ooh, it's moving.
It's pretty easy, actually.
Yeah, the roll's pretty easy. Well, it didn't fall over, so the roll's pretty easy. We'll get the other hoist pillar out of the way and then move the hoist back to the front. There we go, done. No hoist in sight. So that's the first time I've actually moved it. These hoists are a brand called HAP, and it's an Australian company. I was looking around for ages for something that I was able to lift the car up and then remove the hoist and put it back somewhere else. So I found this company. I got them, they were delivered from, I think they're in Queensland, and there's nothing joining the pillars together, like there's no bottom floor, and there's no bottom brace, and there's no top brace. So the idea is you can unbolt them and just move them around wherever you want, and then you can space them as far apart or as close together as you want, and then they just run off this little hydraulic motor, which is just 240 volts, you don't need 3-phase, and they're just quick connect fittings, so you just plug them in, they go up and down, and then you can move them out of the way. So they come in a few different heights. These I just got the tallest would fit underneath my thing. And this isn't like a particularly, like it's a bit taller than an average house, but it's nothing crazy for a garage, so they'd be really good for like a home garage or home setup. And yeah, the main thing I wanted them for was, I'm going to make another frame then, so I can have 2 cars on top of each other and like 2 underneath, so I'll fit 4 cars there. And then I'll just unbolt them, drag them back over here and bolt them down again. So they're a pretty good solution if you're trying to like save space, or if you just want to hoist for home. All it is I've just put these female anchors in the ground. So there's sets of anchors wherever I want to put it. I'm going to drill another set here as well, so I can have another work area. And then you just drag them around as needed. I think each pillar is like 120 kilos. So it's nice to use a little trolley, but I don't have the trolley here at the moment, so I just dragged them over there because they're not very heavy. So yeah, it's a pretty awesome setup. I'm pretty happy with them. I'm ready to get this moved onto the hoist now. First thing that's awkward with this is both the guards are bent, so when I try open the door, the guard like catches and the door doesn't open any further than that, so that's why I keep climbing in the window. It also seems to have a charging issue, so we'll get it on the hoist, climb through the window while holding the camera up. Yeah, we'll get it on the hoist, pull the alternator bracket off, weld the crack in it, and then hopefully that fixes the charging issue, which I don't think it will, but we'll see. It'd be a lot easier to get off on the hoist anyway. Pretty happy because this is the first time I've really worked on my own stuff on the hoist. It's weird, I've only been getting 11 volts and now that I've driven in here it's up to 14. So maybe there's just something loose on the alternator, or hopefully it is just the alternator bracket being cracked, stopping the car charging properly. But we'll get it up in the air and have a look at it. Also, don't buy one of these stupid Greddy multi-gauges. 2 of us have got them, and the screen, there should be a little screen there that says other stuff, and it broke on both of our gauges. There's one in, come on camera, there's one in that car as well, and it's broken too. Would not recommend. Right, so the car's lined up, the little motor just plugs in and you just quick connect it. This is the first time I've had my own car on the hoist, which would be cool. Never actually seen the bottom of this car like without just crawling around underneath it. That's it. Car's up in the air now, which is rad. It's going to be so easy to do. I've got to change the tyre rod, which is going to be awesome. It's going to be easy now. Once the hoist is up to full, it lowers down to like some safety stops, and then it just sits there. Actually, yeah, that was one of the other things I got about this hoist, is these little blocks in here are all the safety stops, and there's one every like 100 mil, whereas heaps of the other brands stop every, like the spaces are way bigger, so it doesn't always end up at the right spot. This one seems really good as far as that regard. Yeah, start looking at the car now. So this is the first time I've actually been able to look at it straight from underneath, which is pretty cool. There's a bit of a dent in the headers here, so I'll probably fix that. My sump guard is definitely earning its money. This is 3mm plate and it's pretty bent, which is awesome, so it's obviously protecting the sump pretty well. There's this piece of steel here which I was supposed to cut off, but I forgot it was under there. That was when I was at an event before I had the tube front, and the whole front of the car like completely snapped off. So I just went to Bunnings and then welded this under the floor all the way to the front to like hold the front of the car back on. And that was actually when Daigo drove it, it was welded together like that, so that was pretty good, held together. But underneath, I don't think there's anything I actually have to fix, really. These are on like underglow neon lights, looking a bit worse for wear, but they'll be right. The main stuff I have to fix while I'm under here is this tie rod, which as you can see is a piece of RHS, so that got broken at Mount Gambier, or bent, and then I bent it back and it snapped, so I just welded that piece of steel to it and that fixed it. And then my alternator bracket, which is up here, has a crack in it, so I'm going to take that off and re-weld it. And yeah, I'll have a good look over all the tube frame. Everything looks fine on it at a cursory glance. We'll have a close look over everything, check all the bushes, and yeah, just do like a big check over now that it's up on a hoist and I can actually see what I'm doing, which will be awesome. So the plan was, once this car's done, which it pretty much is, I can just work on my car here and they can just drive underneath it into the booth. But we've just realised that the car would fit under the car to drive into the booth, but we can't actually open the doors to the booth while my car's up here. So I've got to put my car back down outside, and then we'll put that one inside. Once that one's getting painted, then I can start working on this one. So we just put new plastic up after taking the old stuff down. Obviously I had to move my car out of the way, so it's sitting over there now with the city. This car's ready to go in and get painted. start getting painted at least. It's all good. I scraped a little bit.
A little bit.
It's fine. Should be right. So, they're locked in there now. I can bring my car in and then no exit until my car's fixed. Right, so first thing on the list to fix is this alternator bracket, which you can see there's a crack in it there, and it means that the alternator, like the belt squeals because the alternator's moved a little bit and the belt's come off. The original alternator mounted up here further, but I've moved it down to where the air conditioning is to get centre of gravity a bit lower, and I made this aluminium mount. It's been on there for a couple of years, but I just needed to be a bit stronger, so we'll take it off and reinforce it. Hopefully that solves my charging issue as well, which it should do. Oops, I knew I'd do that. Just as I was taking this off, I'm like, gotta remember that this is still connected to live power. I'm like, oh no, I'll be right. Now I've got to do the tensioner from the underside. When I made this, I was trying to think of a way to make a tensioner, and so this is actually a tensioner from Bunnings. It's for a shade sail cloth, and it's super long. I wanted a short one, but I couldn't get a short one, so I had to make this aluminium extension for it. But it seems like it works really well. You just put something through that little hole, where is it? Little hole there, like an Allen key to twist it, and it tensions it, and then do the two lock nuts up. So it seems like it's been a pretty successful design. So the other nice thing about the shade sail tensioner is you just undo the little split pin at the end and it comes off, so that makes taking the alternator out a lot easier.
Both feet on the ground.
Oh, this one wasn't even tight. That's probably something to do with the alternator squealing so much.
He wasn't putting out aggressive fights.
So now that I look at this, it's actually cracked through there as well and along the top, so we'll like cut it open, like gouge those out with the angle grinder and then re-weld them and then add some sort of like extra brace, if I can think of how to make one, probably like from here down to there or something. Make it a bit stronger, see if it lasts a bit longer. Right, so I'm just going to squash it in the vise to sort of squash the crack back closed, and then once it looks like it's closed up at least a bit, I'll grind that out a bit and then put a big weld in it. Made a good crunching noise. So that looks pretty good. We'll get the grinder in there. Now it's been a long time since I've done any aluminium welding, and I've no idea what settings this is on, so I'm just going to press the button and see what happens. Yeah. The other thing is aluminium has to be super clean when you weld it, and I've done nothing to clean this, so take that as you will. Yeah, that doesn't look terrible. I could see all the dirty shit floating up in it as I was going, but that's a start. We'll try and weld the other side now. So that's as much as I can really get the grinder in there before it starts to cut to the top too much, but I think that should be enough to reinforce it or re-weld it. She's a bit lumpy, but it should work. So this is almost done, but Sean's briefly taken over the fabrication gear to fix his trailer number plate. This car is almost ready to paint. Needs a bit more plastic and masking up, then it's done. Also, if you want one of these stickers of this car, I'll put the link for them in the description so everyone can buy them. And there's like 10 left, so if you want one, there's no rush because none of them ever sell, so don't worry about it. The colour for the drift car. Red's definitely the predominant colour of all the cars that have been sprayed in here. Actually, yeah, no, there's been one more red car than there has yellow cars.
Okay, you should fix that ratio. Spray more cars yellow.
The red is starting. It's a slightly darker colour than the S2000.
Probably.
It looks a little bit darker. It's going to be sick one. Wow, you can really see the texture in the boot lid coming out. Oh yeah, look at that. Lovely, hand glittered, sun damaged, paint cracked. It's all coming out now that it's shiny. Alright, so to help make this a bit stronger, I'm also going to weld down that edge, but I want to add a piece in here. So I've got like a tub over here. This is the scrap aluminium tub that one of my friends gave me, which has been really handy because everything gets made out of stuff that's in here. But yeah, a piece of this probably. So I'm thinking like a piece of this like welded in like there, or probably like a slot a piece underneath there, and then a piece like at an angle down like this, or work something out. So things started turning into a bit of a blob, bit of a mess in there, but I think that should reinforce it a fair bit considering that's like solid now. I'll just probably add that last little piece on, then we'll chuck this back on the car. Well, there's another weld for the not so pretty but should work group. It's so there's the piece under there that I added in, and then there's the other piece on top, so hopefully that should all be strong enough now. While that's cooling down, I remember I got a bit more alloy welding to do on the bash bar. So I've got this section of the crash bar, and that goes down inside the bumper here, and it broke off when I hit the wall at one point. It looks like my penetration on it wasn't very good, so I'll try and, however far away it is, I'll try and improve that on this one, but we'll pull the front bumper off and then get inside there and probably just pull the bash bar off and bring it over to the vise to weld it. The hard part with aluminium is it's not magnetic, so I can't just like stick this on here with a magnet. So we'll just awkwardly hold it while I try and get one or two tacks on, and then hopefully it'll stay put while I weld it all the way around. Right, well, I welded that super hot that time, so hopefully it's got better penetration and holds together. I'm sure that probably means that these ones have crap penetration and they're just going to break next, but we'll just fix them as they break. So the colour on this is done and looking pretty good. Now instead of gloss red, we got metal flake going in, so we'll guess how to do that, seeing as no one here knows what we're doing. Oh, look at it all sinking down inside, that's awesome. It's the metal flake going on. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see it's getting...
You need to clean these windows.
Getting sparkly. Yeah, I don't need to clean windows. Keep getting distracted over there, watching the car and the roof get sprayed with everyone else, but I need to actually get this thing finished. It's done, so I can drive it.
It's just being polite.
Oh, look, this is a bit tighter than it was before I welded it.
Whose car are we doing?
That one.
.80. So I'm going to start tackling this tie rod now. I found my two spare ones, which the first one to ever bring it to a drift day is the one where I bent this.
I just turned up.
So I'm going to be lazy and try and get it off without taking the wheel off, but we'll see if I can. No, it's not a 19. Paul's got my big downlight that I was using to work on my car, but now
Move it around.
I'm trying to use it to look at the sparkles on the car instead. Oh, it's going to be cool once it's in the sun. This is like so soft and floppy, this ball joint. Actually, it bounces. So I might put, so the new ones I have aren't actually new, they're two second-hand ones from other cars. But I might just chuck both the second-hand ones in because they're probably better condition than these ones are. So this one feels like it's way better condition than the other one, so I think I'll swap the other side for the other new one I've got, well, other new second-hand one.
Because it was.
I assume there's no difference left. Actually, I forgot to check the length of this compared to the old one, so I'll take it off again. I even don't have to buy boots tomorrow because there's already a boot on this. I don't remember if I said that already. Cool. You know it's a torque spec because the spanner rounds the nut off. Come on. There you go. Click. My thing's done. It's on, got my boot on. Now the metal flake on the car is also done, so we'll have a look at that, then we'll start on the other side. It's pretty textury and it looks pretty cool still.
Like I can see it in real life, but it doesn't come out in the video.
as usual, it looks a lot sparklier in person than it does on video. So I'm currently halfway through making a video about this, but this just arrived, so I'm going to be slightly distracted, make a quick video seeing what's turned up, because I've been waiting for this to come, and I'm excited. So I sort of forget what I did where I finished up last night. I've got new tyres in that. I've got to finish putting the boot on, and then there's a few other things, but now we're going to go get Sean's R31, which also needs work before the drift day. Bring that over here, get this done off the hoist, put the R31 on the hoist, and then Paul's coming around to pick up the car that got painted with sparkle, which is still in the spray booth. So we haven't used this trailer before, so we'll see how it all goes. It's this car hasn't moved for a while. It's got a nice collection of bird poo, Sean.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some big ones here. The battery in this car goes in the boot. It has an impressive amount of battery white stuff in the back. There's so much of it. Fuel pump sounds. No worries. So Sean's just getting his car unloaded. When I drove this last, I hit the guardrail side on and I bent something in the rear of the car and it started handling a bit funny. I've been having a close look over it and I can't see anything that's obviously bent. I've noticed that this muffler's blown its guts out. I've seen mufflers do this heaps of times and they're rusty, but this one's pretty new, so I don't know why it's broken like that, which is a bit lame, but I also don't really care. One thing I do know is the flex joint is stuffed internally, so you can see it's all carbony around the front because all the exhaust is coming out here. So I'm just going to take this flange off and double check that it hasn't collapsed inside and causing a big restriction, because yeah, it'd be losing a bit of power from that. So if it's coming out here, I don't really care. I just don't want it acting like a big, because I've seen them all unfray inside and turn on Big's bird's nest, so I'll have a look inside that next. You can see in there, it's sort of like, if I get in focus, it's pretty dark. It's frayed a little bit, but not really, so I think that'll be right for a while. I'll put it back on, but it's on the list of things to be replaced. There he goes. Okay, so I think my car's pretty much done now. I've cable tied the boots on, and I can't be bothered to cut them, so I won't. That random bit's cut off. This isn't stuffed. I can't find any other bent or damaged stuff. The tube frame and everything, had a good look at it from underneath. Nothing looks bent or cracking or broken. So Paul and Jen are here now. They'll pull their car out. My car comes off the hoist, their car comes out, and then Sean's car's ready to go in. Then I've got a bit more work to do on this car once it's back on the ground still. Alright, we'll see if it starts without squealing the belt this time. See if my alternator problem is fixed. The other thing I have to fix is the doors opening. That car didn't want to start again, and it's gone back to having 9 volts charge, so I've got to have a quick look at the electrical system. But this car's ready to come outside now and see how sparkly it looks. Just in time for a gap in the clouds as well. Looks pretty good. You got a minute of sun when you drive it out.
Yeah. Ah, cool. Yeah.
Yes. Well, you can sort of see it closer to it. Anyway, that should be pretty cool.
That's rad.
That car's done. Look at how sparkly this tyre is as well. Back to this one. Okay, so I've just put the altimeter between the terminal and the alternator in the body. and it's reading 14 volts, so I'm just a bit suspicious of the actual gauge instead of the charge voltage. I'll check what the battery's reading, but I think I might just ignore that gauge. So when I check the voltage at the alternator, it's good, and when I check the battery, the voltage is good, but the gauges are all being powered off the cigarette lighter circuit, and that's reading low. And I've just noticed that there's a ground here that's not screwed on. Not sure why it's not screwed on, but we'll put that on and see if it's fixed. So I put that ground back on, it didn't make any difference. But I was poking around with the multimeter, and the way this works is this is the main power here. There's the focus. This is the main power. It powers this whole side. You can see it's like one long piece of metal. And then each of these main fuses takes off to another like subsystem, and they're all 12 volts. And this one here, which is the bottom one, is reading low. And then looking closely at it, it's actually like the fuse is super burnt and stuff. So we'll chuck a new one in, see if that's made any difference. Hopefully that's the problem. So hopefully that's readable. But basically I did some poking around with the multimeter and discovered this fuse looks kind of burnt, and it's confirmed because this red wire here is the main power into the fuse box. And you can see this is one long piece of metal, so that's all the same power. And then these fuses distribute it off to all the different like subsystems in the car. And so if you can read the multimeter, if I check this fuse, it's it's 0 ohms pretty much. It should be like no resistance, and they all read pretty much 0 or very close to 0, except this bottom one here, it's reading 3 ohms, 1 ohm, and it's all moving around all over the place, and it looks slightly like burnt and crap. And this one connects through to there, and that's the main battery fuse. And now looking at my fuse cover, it's supposed to be 70 amp and it's actually 40 amp, so it's been like that since I've had the car probably, because I've never played with this. But we'll stick another one into another car and hopefully that's the charging issue sorted. This car's been relocated into the sun because the front panels were the nicest ones, and it looks pretty cool. Yeah, I still reckon you should have pulled the masking tape off like the bonnet latches and the badge and stuff before you put the flake on, so they all had sparkly stuff on them.
Okay, sparkles on the top as well.
Well, next time.
I was thinking even like the windows and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm heading down the driveway to the Prelude of Giving, see if he wants to donate a fuse. This has got a really rare, like I bought the car for like $100 or whatever, and it's just an auto non-running wreck when I got it, but it's got a pretty like rare body kit. You can still buy them new, but they're expensive, so they're sort of rare to find second hand. So at some point I'm going to take a mold off it, so I have copies to put on my car. I've got the front bumper inside as well, but we'll see if it has a 70 amp fuse that we can have. There's the battery one in there. Oh, I even got the cover on them. Rad. Wow, they're so much better condition than the ones in my car. Cool, I'll have that, thank you very much. Yeah, nice shiny new fuse. See if we actually have a charging voltage now. It's decided it won't start again. Okay, I put some starting spray on it. I'm going to blame not starting for the fact it's been sitting around for a long time. But we're now getting 14 volts, and this one, even though the screen's stuffed, I can't read it, has stopped beeping. So I think that was our charging issue. So we've got the charging issue sorted, the bash bar sorted. The only thing I've got to fix now is get the doors to open, and then tidy up the back a bit, get the boot to close properly, and put some new tail lights in it. So start on that next. I took it for a run after fixing the fuse, and it was misfiring a little bit, but I've just cleaned the plugs. It seems like it's running pretty good now. Right, I've just taken all my crap out of the boot. I added this reinforcement. This is where it's broken under the rail. I added this before the last event and stiffened up the back of the car a fair bit. It has started to break off just here because the suspension's mounted to this side of the crease, but the sway bar's mounted to this side, so when the sway bar moves it bends the whole back of the car up and down. So I just welded this back on to stiffen it. These two here are still holding, so I think that should be right for now. You can see there's a crack there now, and this is bent in from hitting the wall at Mount Gambier. That'll all be fine. The main thing I need to do is this aluminium frame that goes like along here and up and along the bottom is there to hold the tail lights, and it's like broken and sort of bent down, so I'll bend that back up, get the lights sitting properly. And this is just a temporary thing that I added to hold the boot, which has kind of become a bit more permanent, but it's even in here. This little tab was originally welded there and the boot latch sat on it, so now because it fell off, the boot like closes too far, so we'll weld that back on and bend the frame back out, see if it looks presentable enough. So I've got a pair of stock tail lights here, but what I was running at the last event was these aluminium ones. This one's a bit munted, but they fit into the stock place. There's a bit of paper left on it, but I just stick a printed photo of the tail light over it and they look like 90%, like pretty good. So this one, the wiring's a bit chewed up, but if these are okay, I'll probably just put these back on it. I'll just double check. I'll use the original ones to like fit it all so it's the right shape, and then swap these ones back in. So I'm not breaking original ones. But it's good to have the original ones if you want to drive it still. Right. This aluminium frame is like pretty warped, but I should be able to bend it back straight and get it to fit back on here, and then once this is shaped up, I'll work from there. Looks like Sean's car is done as well. Turned out he came here to change the alternator because he said you have to change the alternator on hoist. But it turns out the only thing wrong with it was one of the plugs to the alternator was dirty, so that should be right to go. Gotta wait till I get some cable ties, finish putting the back of this back together, and then we're ready to drive. Actually, I know I've got to get the doors to this open as well, but that'll be right. So I sort of forget where I was up to with the video, but basically this like T-bar thing that I said was supposed to be temporary was a bit bent. I tried to bend it back and it just snapped off. So I'll weld that back on, and then I'll weld the little latch for the boot lid, and then I can put the lights back in it. So the boot lid's got its thing to sit on now. The boot lid's not quite flat, it's like a bit bent, so I'll have to push it back the other way. It's also like, as well as being bent, whole thing's shifted over, so it's like sticking out over the top of this guard. And this side there's like a big gap, so I'll have to fix that. And the rear crash bar is bent on this side, which I can't really do anything about tonight. So the whole bumper and everything's shifted over, so that I'm just going to have to deal with. But I'll try and straighten the boot lid a little bit at least. This wants to come this way a little bit. I don't think it's going to want to come this way at all. Go that way a little bit. Anyway, let's chuck the tail light mount in and see how it looks. It's sitting pretty low. Since I added this bar in here, I normally just cable tie this tail light bracket thing up to this bar, and the height ends up pretty close. Not quite like that, but we'll do that, and then I'll cable tie the bumper up to this, and it should all like match up. Get the panel gaps looking pretty good. There's a bit of a big gap there, but it'll be alright. The problem I'm having is when I tighten these cable ties that hold this panel gap well, it because the holes are offset because the bumper's shifted, when I tighten it, it's pulling this center garnish across and pulling the bumper the other way. I want the bumper to go the other way, but I don't want this to move, so I can't tighten them enough to actually close this gap. So then I'll just have to deal with the gap being there. It looks a bit like shit, but it'll be right for now. So I'm going to fit it up with these stock tail lights to make sure all the gaps are right, and then once these are in and everything's sitting correctly, I'll swap it to the sacrificial paper tail lights before I actually do any proper drifting. I'll show you. The thing that always seems to get the lights to sit correctly is pulling them like into the boot lid, and there used to be like a cable tie, like a cable tie from the tail light into where the car used to be, and as the car's been getting more and more cut off, this chain of cable ties that pulls the tail light in has been getting longer and longer, and at this point it's like a foot long, but it does hold the tail light like pretty nicely aligned. So obviously I've got to get the once the bumper's actually in properly and this will sit right and bend the Rio back and that corner will be pretty spot on. I think we can start working on the other corner now. Cool, that's the other side done. The other side's pretty much the same as the first side, but without as long a cable tie chain because there's something a lot closer to attach it to. It's the spacing around the side here is retarded just because this like guard's all pushed in, but whoops, kick my drill bits. That'll be a fix for another day. See how the boot lid lines up, I guess. Alright. Looks pretty good. Once again, everything's a bit like shifted to the side, like over that way, just because it is shifted to the side over that way. But at like a quick glance, it looks good. Ready? Ha! See? Ha! 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 Looks good at a glance. So I just realised that this light has none of its wiring, but I had to dig through my parts stuff and found a loom, so hopefully it works. Hopefully all the factory wiring works, because it's sort of been a while since I've used factory lights. Okay, so there's Parkers.
Yep, both. No number. Actually,
Both Parkers? No number plate lights not on. Parkers. Brakes?
yep, both.
Both brakes. Hazards.
Both hazards.
Oh yeah, look at
They're
that.
fast though.
Ah, brand new. See, told you got new. Cool, so the back's completely sorted now. The only other things I've left to do, I think, is both the mirrors are sort of like broken and they stick out now, so they like point in a weird direction, but that should just be unbolt them and bolt them back on. They're both like that from getting a bit too close to the guardrail. And oh yeah, I gotta chuck the bumper back on, but that takes 2 seconds, and some cable ties. The only other thing is both the doors, when I try to open them, they get stuck on the guards. I can't actually get the door any further open than that, because both guards are pushed in as well, so I just gotta push them back out. It actually looks like the guards like slid in on the bolts, so I should be able to just loosen the bolts and push them out, maybe bend the guard a bit, and they should be hopefully clear the door then. And then that's pretty much the end of the list. Oh yeah, I also remember that since I cut the whole front of the car off, the guard only has one bolt that holds it on anyway, so that should be pretty easy. I'm pretty keen to get this fixed because for the last like couple of months I've been climbing through the window every time and it's getting pretty old. Ready? Ah shit. I'm really trying to avoid taking the whole guard off and fix it because I've taken the side skirt off as well. Now I can't get my things out. Ah! I can finally get in my car through the doors now instead of climbing through the window. Looks pretty good. Same thing on the other side. So I've just chucked some cable ties on the bumper and that's all that holds that on. But I just will like, oh, I might take it for a... If there's a nighttime track day, I was like, oh, there's no, I got no lights anymore. And I was like, oh, that's okay, because it used to have a light bar, so I just put that back on. Like, it had it like 5 years ago, but the holes are still there, obviously, because much to my despair, none of the holes in this car ever fix themselves, they just stay there. So I put the light bar back on, but then I also realised that I'm pretty sure this was the loom for the headlights, and none of that exists anymore, so I found it, and then it wasn't the loom for the headlights, so then I looked through this big bunch of wires, which is just jammed over here. Turns out there was headlights, so the wires for the light bar are just stuck in that plug, and I'll wrap some tape or something around them so it doesn't fall out, and now I have light. Best thing is it even works with the regular like light switch, so that's professional as. So that's pretty much it for now. Got all the underside stuff fixed, pretty much everything from Mount Gambier is repaired except for the end being shifted across a bit. I've got some lights sorted, so if I go to a day where they require you to have lights, that should be good enough. And other than that, car should be ready to drift. So I know people keep saying, when are you going to put up more drifting videos? And I haven't been for a while, but next weekend is the next drift day, so I'll be taking this car out and you'll be seeing a video from that soon thereafter. So see you on the next video. Oh, the bell, press the bell thing, subscribe, YouTube stuff, etc. If you want to see the video, don't miss it by pushing the bell thing, and then YouTube will be like, nah, you don't want to see this anyway, and just not show it to you even though you did click the bell thing. But yeah, I'll see you on the next video. Bye. video. I was going to silicon up the little gap on that intake, which I'm pointing to, that Sean not looking at. Look at the intake, Sean. There's a gap around here, and I couldn't get any silicon out, and then I broke the silicon gun trying to get the silicon out, and so it's now just a matter of me versus the silicon. So now we'll see if the silicon wants to come out. Well, there's like a hole straight through this, so the silicon should dispense neatly from the bottom of the thing. Let's put some JDM newspaper under there to catch our dispensed silicon, from our silicon dispenser. Oh, look at that, it's coming out perfectly. See, who said that this silicon tube was too old to use? Look at that, one ready to go. See, no leaks. If it's Sellies, it works. And that's it.